Hi everybody. I want to do this workout while you watch. A workout with special angle pairs, and this one's Roman numeral 2, a little more advanced. In the figure at right, talks about right here, in the figure at right, angle 1 and angle 2 form, and we got to talk about what these two angles form. And what they form is a linear pair. That's what would go right there. They form a linear pair. And we should know some things about a linear pair of angles. A linear pair of angles must add up to 180 degrees. They must be supplementary. So I know that angle 1 and angle 2 got to be supplementary. I can write an equation with these expressions, and it would look like this. 10x plus 25 plus 10x minus 5 adds up to 180, because I have a linear pair which must be supplementary. And I gather like terms. That 10x and the other 10x gives me 20x. And this positive 25 and that negative 5 give me a positive 20. Still equals 180. I got to solve that equation. I'll subtract this 20 from both sides, which leaves me with 20x equal to 160. Divide both sides by 20, and I can presume that x is equal to 8. Because 160 divided by 20 is 8. I'm not finished. I got to find the measure of each angle. Here's how we could do that. The measure of angle 1, since x is equal to 8, should be 10 times 8, there's 80, plus 25, that's 105 degrees. And then the measure of angle 2. If x is still 8, and 10 times 8 is 80, take away 5, 75 degrees. Now I recognize that these two angles got to add up to 180. I see that they do, so I'm happy and I'm on my way. Carefully watch this next one. You're going to be expected to do a couple things like these. This will require a substitution or some way to solve a pair of equations. It says that angle A and angle B are complementary, and the measure of angle A is 10 more than 3 times the measure of angle B. I got to write equations, two equations I think, and find the measure of each angle. Since angle A and angle B are complementary, I should know that A plus B adds up to 90. Really, that's representing the measures of the angles add up to 90. And I also see that A equals 10 more than 3 times the measure of angle B, 3 times B. So these are the two equations I have to work with. I see where I can make a substitution. This is equal to A. So I can use it in the place of A and rewrite this top equation. I hope you learned a lot about this in your Algebra 1 class last year. In the place of A, I'm going to write 10 plus 3B plus B equals 90 degrees. And that's the equation I should solve. I should gather these two sets of B's together, and it becomes 10 plus 4B is equal to 90. Subtract 10 from both sides as I isolate this variable B. When I subtract 10 from both sides, I got 4B is equal to 80. Divide both sides by 4, and I see that B is equal to 20, because 80 divided by 4 would leave me with 20. And so I should report that the measure of angle B is 4 times 20, therefore 80 degrees. Now I've got to figure out the measure of, oops, what was I thinking? 4B is equal to 80, that's true, but B is equal to 20. Measure of angle B is 20 degrees, excuse me. Now I need to find the measure of angle A. A is 10 plus 3 times B, but B was equal to 20. 3 times B is going to be 60, plus 10, that'd be 70. I'm happy with those two angles, 20 and 70, because they needed to be complementary, and they are complementary. Let's look at this next one. It's very similar. It says that angle P and angle Q are supplementary, and P is 20 more than 3 times Q. If P and Q are supplementary, I should know that they add up to 180, so I'll write P plus Q adds up to 180. And P is 20 more than 3 times Q. P is 20 more than 3 times Q. There's the two good equations I got to work with. And like we did on the top equation, the top problem here, we're going to do another substitution. In the place of P, I'm going to write something that's equal to P. you see that this 20 plus 3q is equal to p. So I rewrite the top equation. In the place of p, 20 plus 3q plus q itself adds up to 180. Gathering like terms, the 3q and the 1q gives me 4 times q, plus that 20 equals 180. Subtract 20 from both sides, and I'll have that 4q is equal to 160. Divide both sides by 4, and I think that q must be 40 degrees. That's just because 160 divided by 4 is 40. So I say the measure of angle q is 40 degrees. Now I've got to find out about the measure of angle P. And I know it's 20 more than 3 times Q, and I know that Q is 40. 3 times 40 would be 120, plus 20 would be 140. And that works well. I know that these two angles had to add up to 180 degrees. I might put a box around that one too. A few more questions to deal with. Let's look at these. This one talks about, with this sketch, angle 1 and angle 3. As I look at angle 1 and angle 3, I recognize those to be vertical angles. They must be congruent to each other, equal in measure. So the equation would be that this amount must equal to that amount. That is, 5x plus 19 must be equal to 8x minus 8. I know that the angles 1 and 3 are equal in measure because they're congruent, because vertical angles, angles formed by opposite rays of each other, are always congruent. I got to isolate the variable. I got variable on both sides. I should subtract 5x from both sides, which will just leave 19 on this side. When I subtract 5x from both sides, I'm left with 3x here, minus 8. Then I got to solve this equation. I should isolate that 3x. I should add 8 to both sides. 19 plus 8 is 27, equals 3x. Divide both sides by 3, and I'm convinced that x is equal to 9. Not yet finished though. I got to find out about angle 1 and 3, but it says actually find all 3 angles. We'll have to find out about angle 2 as well. Here we go. The measure of angle 1. Since x is equal to 9, we'll go with 5 times 9. There's 45 plus 19. I think that's 64 degrees. Then I check the measure of angle 3. Should be the same, but let me check it. If x is equal to 9, 8 times 9 is 72. 72 take away 8, yep, that's 64 again. So I'm happy so far. These two angles had to be congruent, and they are. But if these two angles are each 64 degrees, what about angle 2? Yep, they should be supplementary. Angle 1 and angle 2 form a linear pair. They have to add up to 180 together. Like angle 2 and angle 3 form a linear pair, have to add up to 180 together. So I could find the measure of angle 2 using that thought. 64 plus something adds up to 180. Subtract 64 from that, and I'll figure out that angle 2 has to be 116 degrees. I think I've got everything figured out for that question. We have a new figure to look at here, and a couple of questions that go with it. I wouldn't even worry about the 2x or the 5x plus 10 until I study this figure pretty well. It tells me that AD is perpendicular, that's the symbol for perpendicular, and that is to BE. So AD and BE are perpendicular. I know that's a right angle right there, 90-degree angle. This first problem talks about angle 1 and angle AZC. AZC. That's this large angle there. Angle 1 and angle AZC, wow, they form a linear pair. They make a straight line together. They must be supplementary. So my equation could be that 2x plus 15x plus 10 adds up to 180. We got to gather like terms here. I got 2x and 15x. There's 17x plus 10 adds up to 180. I'll subtract 10 from both sides, and I get 17x equals 170. Divide both sides by 17, and I figure that x must be 10. Hold that thought. I got to find the measures of these angles. It asks me to find the measure of angle 1 and angle 2. I'll find the measure of angle 1 first. Measure of angle 1 is 2 times 10, therefore 20. Now, it would be interesting to know about the measure of angle AZC, but it's just not asked for. Then it would be 15 times 10, there's 150, plus 10 more would be 160. And if this angle's 20, that one would be 160, that way they add up to 180 together. But I'm supposed to find out about angle 2. And as I study this figure, angle 1 and angle 2 are complementary, they add up to 90 together. And since I know the measure of angle 1 is 20, I can find the measure of angle 2 that way. Measure of angle 2 must be 70 degrees. And I think that's all I needed to do for this one. I needed to find x and the measure of angle 1 and the measure of angle 2. One more question for you to watch me do, please. This one talks about angle 1 and angle 3. We should recognize that angle 1 and angle 3 are vertical angles with each other, and they'll be congruent to each other, so these must be equal in measure. So my equation, 3x plus 4, is equal to 5x minus 10. Angle 1 and angle 3 are equal in measure. I got to solve this equation. I should subtract 3x from both sides, which would just leave 4 on this side, equals subtracting 3x from both sides. I have 2x minus 10. Bring that 10 to the other side, add 10 to both sides, and I get 14 is equal to 2x. Divide both sides by 2, and I'm convinced that x is equal to 7. Not yet finished, though. I got to find the measures of some angles. The measure of angle 3 is what's asked for, but let me check the measure of angle 1. 3 times 7 would be 21, plus 4 would be 25. So angle 1 would be 25. I bet you angle 3 should be the same. Recognize that the measure of x is equal to 7. 5 times 7 is 35, minus 10 would be 25 degrees. I'm happy about that. Those two angles have to be 25 degrees. But it also asks about angle BZC. BZC, that's this one right here. And if I recognize that this angle's 25, then this angle's 25. This angle must be the complement of 25. They make a right angle together. So I can find the measure of angle BZC that way. And the complement of 25, take 25 from 90, and I find that to be 65 degrees. So I know those couple of angles that I had to figure out about BZC must be 65. And that's a good look at this page. Now everybody, what you're going to do is you're going to work a page that looks a lot like it. Practice with special angles, angle pairs, Roman numeral 2. It has really similar kinds of questions, but it's different. Don't turn in the page that I just did, but this is the page you got to turn in to me at Canvas. Thank you very much. I hope this makes sense to you. We'll be talking about it. Thank you.